All right, let's talk about something that affects millions of women, but for some reason is often kept in the shadows. We're talking about stress urinary incontinence. In this explainer, we're going to break down what it is, why it happens, and most importantly, what you can actually do about it.
So let me ask you this. Have you ever been in the middle of a great laugh, or let out a big sneeze, or maybe you were out for a run, and whoops, a little leak happens? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. This is a super common medical condition. The official medical term for this is stress urinary incontinence, or SUI for short, and that word stress is key. But we're not talking about emotional stress like a tough day at work. No, this is all about physical stress, any action that puts a sudden burst of pressure on your bladder and the muscles that are supposed to be keeping things locked down.
So first up, let's get a handle on what exactly this is, and just how many people are really dealing with it. And this is the part that might surprise you. This isn't some rare fringe issue. SUI is the single most common type of urinary incontinence that women experience. And, just knowing how widespread it is, well, that's a huge first step in kicking the stigma to the curb.
Okay, so what's actually going on in the body that causes this? Well, it pretty much boils down to one of two main problems. You can think of it like this. There are two main mechanical failures that can lead to SUI. Over on the left, you've got the support problem. Imagine your pelvic floor muscles as a little hammock holding up your bladder and urethra. When that hammock gets weakened, any pressure, like a cough, causes the urethra to drop down and pop open. Then on the right, you've got the seal problem. In this case, the hammock might be totally fine, but the sphincter muscle itself just can't clamp down and create a tight seal.
And this quote just explains that seal problem perfectly. It really is like a leaky faucet. One that needs a new washer to stop that slow drip. The plumbing's all in the right spot, but the seal itself, it's just not working right. This can happen from things like aging, hormonal shifts, or even nerve damage.
So, who's most likely to run into this? Well, a few key things can raise your risk. Big life events like childbirth or conditions like obesity put a ton of strain on that pelvic floor, which can lead to that support problem. And then things like aging and menopause can affect muscle and tissue tone, contributing more to the seal problem. Basically, anything that puts long-term strain on that whole system is a potential risk factor.
But here's the good news, and it is really good news. There are some incredibly effective ways to manage and treat SUI, so let's look at what's considered the first line of defense.
The very first thing you should know is that jumping straight to surgery is not the normal path here. For the vast majority of women, taking control of SUI starts with some pretty straightforward, non-surgical approaches that can make a massive difference.
This approach really starts with two main actions. First off, simple lifestyle tweaks can have a surprisingly fast impact. But the real powerhouse here is pelvic floor muscle training. You've probably heard of them as Kegels. The secret, though, is doing them correctly, which is why getting some guidance can be a real game changer.
And hey, this isn't just some casual advice. This is a strong recommendation from the medical community. They say pelvic floor muscle training should be offered as first-line conservative management. It's all about rebuilding and strengthening those crucial support muscles from the inside out. But what happens when those first-line methods just aren't cutting it? Well, for those cases, there are some definitive surgical solutions that have become incredibly effective and are way less invasive than you might think.
And just look at this number. For the most common type of surgery for SUI, the success rate is over 90%. I mean, think about that. That is a truly remarkable figure, and it represents a huge leap forward, giving women a real long-term fix so they can live without constantly worrying about that next laugh or sneeze.
So, how in the world does it work? It's actually a pretty brilliant and simple idea. The surgery creates a tiny sling or hammock out of a synthetic material. This little sling gets placed right under the urethra to give it the support it's been missing, and that stops it from dropping and leaking when pressure hits. Now, over the years, this procedure has been tweaked and perfected. And today, these minimally invasive synthetic slings placed right at the midpoint of the urethra, they're considered the gold standard. And what that means is that they are the proven, preferred, and most effective surgical treatment out there for SUI.
Now, there are a couple of main ways to place this sling. The names sound complicated, retropubic and transobturator, but they just refer to the path the sling takes inside your body. And honestly, the visual makes it super simple to understand. The retropubic sling is placed like a tight U.
while the transobturator sling creates more of a relaxed smile shape. A surgeon will figure out which approach is best for each person's specific anatomy.